Hey there, guys. Welcome to the 23rd episode of Daily Word Webs to Build a Cat. I'm Anupam Mishra. मेरा introduction मैं आपको हर बार की तरह session के end में दूंगा for those learners who might be new. Today's route, the route that we'll be taking up today is GEO, that stands for Earth, right? A spaceship that came without a manual. I read this somewhere. मुझे याद नहीं मैंने कहाँ पढ़ा था, but quite witty. Okay, so let's start. Starting with the root info part, so guys, geo is a root that I think we are quite well aware of. ये word हमने ये term हमने काफी बहुत सारे शब्दों में words में बचपन से हम लोग देखते आ रहे हैं in school classes etc. like geography, geology, geologist, geographers वैसे. So this term derives from the Greek language and it stands for earth. Okay, and there are other similar roots that also have similar meanings such as ter or terra. राइट ये रूट हम लोग आगे आगे आने वाले सेशंस में देखेंगे. फॉर नाउ लेट्स मूव ऑन विद जियो. सो क्वांटिटेटिव एप्टीट्यूड में वन ऑफ द आउट ऑफ द 5 मेजर टॉपिक्स जो आपके होते हैं ना, क्या क्या होता है? यू हैव numbers, you have arithmetic, you have algebra, you have geometry, and you have modern maths, right? These are the 5 major topics that you'll be preparing, right? One of these topics is what? Geometry, right? Geometry को अगर हम लोग देखें, geometry, Geometry, geometry initially evolved as a science where people, simply wanted to measure the things that they found in their surroundings, right? Like you can see that geo came from this root geo that stood for earth, and metry came from the root मैं यहाँ पे लिख देता हूँ आपके लिए metria, metria, that stood for that is Greek for measures, right? So geometry essentially means measuring the earth. However, geometry में आप like you don't directly start measuring complex figures. You start with first measuring simple figures. उसके बाद फिर आप your complex figures are simply a combination of many simple figures, right? So that's how it goes, and that's why they first start you help you develop the skill to measure the dimensions and areas and volumes of simple figures, right? Squares, cubes, वैसे करके. And then उसके बाद फिर geometry होता है. So but that's about the evolution of geometry, and now geometry as a subject is generally considered limited to your mathematical shapes जो theoretically देखते हैं. उसके applications हैं काफी सारे real life. Okay, to be fair. So that's about geometry. Let's come to the first word that is that we are supposed to discuss on a primary basis, which is geologist. Now geologist comes from geologist is the person who studies geology, right? And like one who studies Earth's structure, evolution, and its mineral energy and energy resources, right? So geologist comes from the first part, तो obviously आपको दिख रहा है यहाँ geo से आया हुआ है. Second part, logist, comes from logy. Logy stands for the study of something. I think this is something that we have come across quite a number of times in many of the earlier episodes, right? So geologist would be a person who studies the Earth's structure, its evolution, how it has evolved, how the Earth structure has evolved over the years, as well as its mineral and energy resources, right? How is it different? How geology आपका geography से different कैसे हो जाएगा? वो हम लोग अभी आगे देखते हैं. We'll come to geography in a bit, right? So geologist is the person who studies this, and this subject that involves the study of Earth structures, evolution, and its mineral and energy resources will be considered as geology. Okay, IST वाला part जहाँ पे भी लगता है, it refers to the person who practices that profession. Okay, so like psychiatry and psychiatrist, right? Okay, let's come to the next term, which is geographer. Now geography. Geography comes from the first root to first part to आपको दिख रहा है, comes from geo. The second part is graphy, that comes from a root that we have studied so many times now, right? Graphean. Graphean, अब तक तो आपको ये root भी याद हो गया होगा. Graphean stands for to write something. In Greek, it stands for to write something. And so geography is basically, अगर मैं etymologically इसको एकदम literal sense में लूँ, तो इसका मतलब क्या निकल के आएगा कि to write or to take down or to take note of how the planet Earth is, right? Earth पे चीजें कैसी हैं उसका एक description दिया जाए, right? However, the meaning is slightly more what do you say, dense, right? It's not just about taking note of or drawing maps. Geography is about the study of diverse physical features तो आपके हैं ही study में, but also biological and cultural aspects of the earth. So if you recall, हम लोग जब geography पढ़ते थे, we did not really so we studied about equatorial regions, tropical regions, temperate regions, tundra regions, नहीं बहुत सारे terms थे. And however, the chapters would not just be limited to these various types of regions. Apart from the regions, the chapters will also talk about the cultures there, right? To some extent, at least बहुत ज़्यादा depth में नहीं, but किस तरह के लोग वहाँ पे रहते हैं, what is the kind of diet that they follow, right? What is the kind of species or flora and fauna that you find there, right? So geography is not is quite diverse as a study, okay? So it deals with the biological, cultural aspects as well, and that's how it is different from your geology, okay? So I hope that's clear. और भी एक दो terms हैं geo वाले. Before we go to the next word, let's look at there's another term that we can study, which is geogeny. Okay, now geogeny, the first part obviously comes from geo, earth, and the second part, geny, comes from a root that we have studied, that we studied earlier, which was genos, right? Genos was stood for like to give birth to something or to beget something, right? So geogeny, आपको याद होगा हमने cosmogony पढ़ा था. Cosmogony was the science of dealing with theories or hypotheses about the way the universe started. And similarly, geogeny is basically the study of the origins and the formation of Earth, right? How the Earth, how our planet came into being, right? So about the origins and formation of the Earth. That's what geogeny is about. Another term that we can look into is geography. से geographer तो आपका हो ही गया, like the person who practices the study of geography will be a geographer. George, that's quite interesting. In fact, this is the term that you will come across. अगर आपने ये नॉर्मल लुइस किताब पढ़ी है, वहाँ पे भी आपको दिखेगा. George is actually just a name, right? ऐसे तो नाम ही लग रहा है. But George is in fact it's a name that is derived from two roots. First वाला part तो आपका GE. The first part GE comes from geo, that means earth, and the second part the second part of it comes from the root argon, ERGON, which I think it's Greek for the word work, right? So George would be the name of a person who works on earth, like, well, literally with earth, right? वैसे तो हर कोई earth पे ही काम कर रहा है. So but literally with earth, like a farmer, right? So the very first farmer would be probably had the name of George. I don't know exact data, मुझे नहीं पता है. I don't think किसी के पास भी ये data होगा, but at least that's how that's what the etymological meaning of the word George could be, okay? As per most of the sources that you'll see, वहाँ पे आपको ये मिलेगा. So by the way, argon से there's another term that you can derive from argon, which could be ergonomics. Have you heard of this? Ergonomics. Ergonomics is basically the science of study of efficiency of human effort, right? So ergonomics is generally deployed. ये आपका industrial production lines और जो भी आपकी manufacturing units हैं, वहाँ पे the best way to get things done, the best way to improve productivity, वहाँ पे आपका deploy होता है ये science है, ergonomics. People from industrial engineering, जिनका ये background रहा होगा, वो शायद इसको ज़्यादा relate कर पाए. Although I'm sure like many of बाकी लोगों ने भी ये सुना होगा. Anyhow, so that's about ergonomics. Let's move on to the next term now, which is apogee. Now, apogee can have, guys, इसका एक there can be a literal meaning of this word, and there can also be a figurative meaning of this word. Okay, figurative meaning आपका यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, the climax or the highest point in the development of something, right? The apogee is like the apogee of the movie was when the hero or when the protagonist came back from the dead, right? Protagonist का मतलब क्या होता है? The hero, right? Protagonist. So that would be the apogee, that would be the climax. However, literal sense में अगर इस word को देखा जाए, then apogee is simply the farthest point. Apogee is simply the farthest point of the moon. Like the moon revolves around the earth, right? Of course, in the process of revolving around the earth, because the earth is also revolving around the sun, it also revolves around the sun indirectly. Fair enough, but still, like I'm just talking about the earth and the moon here. So let's say the moon revolves around the earth, and then it's not a perfect circular orbit. मान लीजिए अगर आपका ये planet earth है, and if the orbit of the moon will not be like perfectly circular, right? मेरे को exact orbit नहीं पता है. It will be more elliptical in nature. It will probably be more elliptical in nature. So the point where the moon might be farthest from the center of the earth, right? This point is considered the apogee, okay? And similarly, the point which is the closest, where it is the closest, this body is the closest to the body it is revolving around, is not, these word terms are not just used for, don't just have to be used for moon and the earth. It can be used for any two bodies which are, in which one of the bodies is revolving around the other bodies. So in an elliptical sort of orbit, right? So the point where it is closest to the other body, this point is considered as the perigee. P-E-R-I. What takes it in the rest? Perigee. Okay, that's considered, will be considered as the perigee. So a perigee is the closest point, and apogee is the furthest, the point that is furthest away. That's the most far away from the center of this central body. Okay, so that's about that. Next, let's look at the term epigeal. Now, what is epigeal? Epigeal is basically a term that can be used for anything that grows above or close to the ground. Usually, it is used for seeds, right? Seeds or organisms which are either like epi is the term for on top of something, right? So epi is the term for like for example, you have epidermis. Your epidermis is the, रुको यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा latency आ रहा है नहीं writing में. So epidermis, derma is the root for skin and epi is like on the top of it, right? So epidermis is जो आपका जो skin का सबसे top वाला जो part है, that is your epidermis. Similarly, epigeal, the second part comes from earth and epi is like just on the top of earth. So anything that grows above or which is close to the ground, it could be a plant, it could be some tiny organisms, some insects. They can, for them you can use the word epigeal. Generally आपका ये फिर भी seeds के लिए use होता है although. Okay, so that's about epigee for you. Let's move on to the next term, which is geopolitics. Okay, geopolitics पे आते हैं. Yeah. Now, geopolitics में the first part obviously comes from geo, which means earth, and politics basically comes from the Greek root polit or polis. Okay, so second part है आपका that comes from that. So POLIT, or another variant of it is POLIS. Okay, these are Greek terms. These are both your, there is some lag in the writing tab today. They are both Greek terms for either city or method of governance. City or the method of governance of the city. Okay, MOG. I'm writing just it in short. So geopolitics would simply be how the influence of geography, the influence of the geography of country, like the physical features, the biological and cultural aspects, all of that of a country, how that has an influence on the governance and economics of the country, right? So your geopolitical issues will be issues of governance and economics and progress and development of the country that relate with the geography of the country, right? That will be your explanation for geopolitics. Let's discuss a couple of other terms before we close the session for today's words. एक और term आपका है geocentric. You must have heard of Nicholas Copernicus, right? What Nicholas Copernicus is regarded to come up with the theory of heliocentrism. Okay, heliocentrism ऐसे शायद term से आपको शायद ध्यान नहीं हो या नहीं पता हो. Heliocentrism is the theory which says that it's the Earth that revolves around the sun, right? And some variants of the theory even believe that maybe, well, sun is the center of the universe and everything revolves around the sun. So we're not going to that extent, but Nicholas Copernicus definitely said that it is not the sun that revolves around the Earth; it is actually the Earth that revolves around the sun, right? So that means what is at the center? At the center, what you have is, according to Nicholas Copernicus, what he said is what you have at the center is the sun, and then helio is the root for sun. Okay, but ये बोलना क्यों पड़ा? हम लोग तो भी जानते हैं ना कि there is the earth that revolves around the sun. But the thing is, before Nicholas Copernicus, the general belief, the prevalent belief was that it's not the sun that is at the center of everything. People believe that it is our planet Earth that is at the center, and it is the sun that revolves around the Earth. Okay, and that doctrine is considered as geocentrism. And now you can understand what that would mean, right? Geocentrism. ये ऐसे काफी wait. Excuse my spelling, guys. Let me just write this properly for you. Okay, geocentrism. So geo comes from Earth, and centrism obviously means center, right? So that means since Earth being at the center of the revolutions, right, of everything. So this was the prevalent theory. However, Nicholas Copernicus said that it is sun that is at the center. Anyhow, so that's about geocentrism. By the way, there's another term that interesting term that we can discuss here, and the last one, the very final one. It's Pangea, Pangea. Okay. Now, Pangea is basically the landmass that people believe existed when all the continents were kind of joined, right? So right now you have your 7 continents, है ना? Europe, North America, Asia, Antarctica, ये जो भी यहाँ पे 7 continents हैं, and they are quite well dispersed. You have all the oceans in between them, right? If you see the world map. However, it's believed that it was not this was not the case always. In fact, there was a time when when all the continents made up a single land mass, not in the shape of this trapezium or this rectangle. Of course, ये मैं आपको बस ऐसे representative मतलब ये ऐसे ही बताने के लिए बोल रहा हूँ. They all made up just one single land mass, right? So and you can see why. How would the term Pangea justify that, right? Because Pan basically stands for all, and Gia mein GE stands for earth, right? That means all of the earth, all of the land was in one place, hence Pangea, right? So yeah, so that's about the last word for today's session. That's it. At this point, guys, you can pause the video and go through the sentence usages of these words, by going through these sentences that have been listed here. And as you can see, these have been sourced from some reliable sources. The credits have been mentioned here. Okay, so you can do that. Here you can again pause the video and test yourself. You just need to find the correct order of sentences which have been shuffled, so that the right sentence, is along with the right word. The words are fixed on the left side. You can also attempt this test via a Google form, the link to which has been provided in the description. So guys, here's the summary of the roots and words that we studied on a primary and secondary basis. What you can do is you can pause the video if you want and try to recall the meaning of these roots and the words that we discussed in the session today. Finally, guys, I'm Anupam Mishra and I'm Lucknow alumnus. These are my areas of work and expertise. These are the brands that I've worked with, and these are my CAT credentials. I've also worked as an academy educator in the past, recognized by the Johnny Ive Award for Best Course Design and Delivery. And yeah, so that's about me. Sluggers, guys, we are a growing channel. मैं यहाँ पे काफ़ी सारी जो दिक्कतें हैं यहाँ पे टेस्ट प्रेप में मैं उनको एड्रेस करने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ स्लगर्स के द्वारा. एंड बिकॉज वी आर अ ग्रोइंग चैनल, हमें आपके पूरे सपोर्ट की ज़रूरत होगी. तो अगर आपको हमारा कंटेंट और डिलीवरी अच्छा लगता है देन डू like and subscribe, like the videos and subscribe to the channel and share it with anyone who you think might benefit from these. आपके लिए शायद वो एक सिंपल सा क्लिक या एक बटन रहता होगा, बट फॉर अ ग्रोइंग चैनल इट मेक्स अ बिग इट मेक्स अ बिग डिफरेंस फॉर अस. सो प्लीज़ डू दैट. अगर आप नेक्स्ट वीडियो देखना चाहते हैं तो आप यहाँ क्लिक कर सकते हैं. एंड इफ यू वांट टू गो टू द वेरी फर्स्ट वीडियो ऑफ द सीरीज, जो अगर आपने नहीं देखा हो तो आप यहाँ क्लिक करके आगे जा सकते हैं. ओके, सो दैट्स अबाउट इट फ्रॉम माय साइड. थैंक यू.